first things first, before I get to playing viewer decks, thanks for the catch, Alikas, on the mic issue. I'd like to look at 5 decks that I think are pretty good in the meta right now as it stands a couple days after the mini set. First things first is obviously Dark Glare Warlock. Dark Glare Seedlock is back with the addition of Mass Production. With Dark Glare up and Mass Production up, you basically have an infinite 1 mana refresh if you keep drawing Mass Productions, or it's a great way to cycle through your deck while also sort of keeping this going. When you get to a point where you have enough Mass Productions in your deck, you can pretty much just spam them with Dark Glare up, and you have mana until you complete your Demon Seed quest, which, when that happens, Dark Glare becomes useless, but now you've got a bunch of Sinister Strikes in your deck. And that seems to be fine. I wasn't sure how awkward this card was going to be when it came to playing this in a Giants version of the deck. I liked the idea of playing it definitely in an XL version because it was hard to get to fatigue anyway in the XL. But this has really turned into a great way to... this has been less awkward than I anticipated it being. The draw 2 first and then shuffling in 2 copies is key because you're guaranteeing basically that you're not getting Mass Production copies first. You're getting other stuff, and then you're basically happening upon Mass Productions as they go. So it's really transformed the experience of this deck and made things like Flesh Giant and Molten Giant and Imprisoned Horror easier to get down while also cycling through our deck. One thing I'd definitely like to point out that I think is kind of key to this build is, again, I've been following Triple Lifts and OTZ's kind of lead on where this list goes. We cut Backfire. We cut Backfire and put an Elemental Geode. Martian's high on this card too. You play Elemental Geode on 2. You could play your Dark Glare on 3. You can trade with your Geode, and now you have 1 mana to work with, and you can start popping off and doing the goofy. Deck list is obviously very good. Again, slow stuff because you have the inevitability of the self-damage of the Demon Seed, even though fatigue is a little bit harder to get to, but not impossible. And you can stat dump pretty quick. I usually am stat dumping on turn 4. On turn 4, I'm usually completing, well, not usually, but I'm often completing my Demon Seed quest. Tamsin's hanging out in my hand so that I can play her on 5. And you might say, well, Schmoopy, what if she gets ratted? Well, if she gets ratted, they're adding a 5-mana 7/7 going into turn 5. They're probably not in a good position, and I probably have a lot of stats on the board, so I really don't care either way. So I think this deck is very good right now. I do think it's a little tricky to pilot. I do think you need to get the reps in as far as when to play the Crystallizer, when to play the Kobold, so that you're getting the maximum Flesh Giant discount, and that you're getting through your deck, and how far deep can you cut against certain opponents, because sometimes you're not going to complete the quest line. It doesn't make sense to complete the quest line. Just go for the stat dump and take the quick heal. Because you do die to things. Anything that goes face really hard traditionally does well against Glare, and I want to double back to that, but right now this is sort of warping the meta because it's beating all the slow stuff, and the stuff that's left behind is different and is sort of reflected on what I've got left. Like, for example, we've done Garrote Rogue before on this channel before. Your old Garrote Rogue list probably works great. It's probably fine into Glare. I have found that if I pop off hard enough, Garrote wants to like do its combo on turn 6. I'm trying to swing the board turn 3 or turn 4. If they get enough face damage in on me, honestly, just casting, getting to the end of your deck and just hard casting Garrotes without the Street Trickster is fine. That's usually the way they get me. In this list is a little bit different than what I took to Legend. I cut a Gear Shift and I cut a Ziliax in order to add 2 Fillet Fighters. Tom Carter suggested it. I'm trying it out, and I've liked it so far. If you think about it, the Fillet Fighters are additional cycle. They can kill off your 1/1s that are created by Jolly Roger. They can also go face. They also present 3 damage. They cycle basically as much as the Gear Shift, obviously less because they're not drawing 3 cards. But at the same time, You know, it's more pirates you can pull off dig for treasure. It's one less non-pirate you can pull off dig for treasure, so you're getting coins more often. I just find that it sort of smooths out the list a little bit. This is still good into Glare, in my opinion. Kingsbane was tier 1 before we had the mini set. Now I think it's still very good. It's a great glare counter. There's no glares running any kind of glacial shards or interference whatsoever. So make a big idiot stick and go for it. Newish cards compared to the last time Kingsbane was good is we have Valera's Gift. Discover a temporary backstab, deadly poison, or fan of knives. All of those options are kind of pretty good right now, with fan of knives being the weakest but not necessarily the worst, into a board of pirates if you're seeing a lot of pirate rogue. The backstab is really nice for getting rid of a treasure distributor, and obviously the 4 copies of deadly poison makes Kingsbane pretty big pretty quickly. I brought this to THL recently, and the one game I played with it, I beat a Miracle Rogue. I had him dead on board on turn 4. Basically, I had 4 mana, and I was showing that, like, okay, you either kill me next turn from 27 or you die. And he decided to scoop. So this deck is pretty good right now, I suspect. You've also got Blade Flurries, and you've got your Doomerangs and your Leeching Poisons to deal with Swarmy aggro. So I gave this deck to Shmoopy Mommy, this exact 30. I might play it to Legend next month. I'm not sure. Another great option, I think, right now that isn't all that different than before is Tom's Egg Hunter, his Huhuran Hunter, which we've outlined extensively on this channel. However, he has made 2 recent additions to it. He cut Barak recently for Nathanos, Defense Attorney. If you get an egg to die, Nathanos is another copy of Egg, which has worked out great. And he also cut the Living Dragon Breath, whoopsie poopsie. He cut the Living Dragon Breath for Theatar Mag Duke to just add a little bit of disruption whenever he faces a different combo deck. This is, by Tom's estimation so far in his testing, the last time I talked to him, about 50-50 into Glare. If they pop off harder than you do, you die. If you get the Lion Chain going, you win. So this deck is probably just fine. It probably doesn't hate seeing bad Glare players at all, especially if everybody's doing the flavor of the minute and they're not very good at Glare. Okay. Last but not least is a newer deck that Sbergs has been pushing out, that Corbett did very well with, that Sbergs brought to rank 20. I don't know if he's kept playing. I'm calling it Pack Rogue. So you basically have the new card Twisted Pack, which adds 5 random cards from another class to your hand. At the end of your turn, you discard them. But you really don't care that you discard them, because just by adding them to your hand, your Wild Knolls cost 0, your Obsidian Shards cost 0. And this is a lot of early presence and a lot of early damage. The rest of the deck is just regular old Miracle Rogue. Let's discount some Arcane Giants and breakdance them and do some silly stuff like that. Except now you also have the option of breakdancing Knolls, which I did earlier against a streamer. And also, you've got this harmonic hip hop Obsidian Shard package, which it's always interesting to me trying to decide when I want to swing and when I don't want to swing, and how big I want to make an Obsidian Shard, because, you know, a 0 mana 6/3 weapon is 18 damage to face. If I manage to stick 2 harmonic hip hops on it, now you're talking about a 9/3, and I've already pre-dealt 2 damage. So you're talking about a total of, what, quick maths, 29 damage? At that point, all you need is a Ghostly Strike to go face, and if they don't have taunt, they die. So this deck looks very strong. This deck looks very good. If you're looking for a quick mulligan guide how to play it, Sbergs wrote a whole guide on Reddit about how to play it. I will include in my video description, so you can go check that out along with all these codes. But basically it boils down to, as I understand it, keep Finley Sea Guide, keep Secret Passage, keep Twisted Pack. Ripping Pack on 1, it's never a bad play. Finleying a bad hand on 1 that you don't like, it's never a bad play. Combining these 2 so that you, for 2 mana, end up drawing 5 at the beginning of the game, plus whatever else other cards are in your hand, that's pretty good. Ripping this and then ripping Secret Passage means that you get to keep the Twisted Pack cards if you really enjoy them, and also you get to go Secret Passage and see if you can find your nulls and Obsidian Shards. This deck looks very strong. This looks like probably the strongest version of Miracle Rogue that I've seen so far, though the Just Draw version is probably still very good. But this is like the new flavor, the new kind of broke thing to do. This is very good, and is honestly not too much more dust, if at all. Might be even less dust than the previous versions that have been run. So you probably already have the cards for this if you've already been playing Miracle Rogue in the first place. Those are the 5 decks that I think I trust the most in the meta right now. I still think Hunter's fine into Glare, and Glare is sort of dictating the tempo, but you kind of see the theme of things. This has enough reach that it can burst it down. This obviously has enough reach that it can burst it down. This is basically tailor-made to murder it. And Egg Hunter, once you get started, I don't think Glare can fit a giant, and it dies. I think some honorable mentions that I don't have codes that I trust for yet, but I really like and think you should explore. I think Questline Druid is probably good right now if Glare is popular. I think Questline Hunter is decent if Glare is popular right now. I think even Druid, which we've played on this stream a lot of times with Sing-Along Buddy and Garrison Commander and Free Refreshes, I think that's probably decent into Glare, even if it's not very good into something like Garrote. I think, anything that kind of goes face aggressively, we have to relearn some of these old lessons that we learned last time this deck was good. And if we do that, I think we're going to be fine. I know I've seen so many people having fun with this deck back, playing it, old heads coming back, playing it, having fun playing it. It's kind of a polarizing card. Some people are deeply unhappy this is back. Some people are ecstatic. It brings them nostalgia of a time long past. Anyway, so endeth Shmoopy Daddy's monologue. Thank you for watching this video on YouTube if you've made it this long. I got some positive feedback about the last time I made one of these videos, and so I'm going to keep doing them periodically, especially after sets. And possibly big balance changes. Okay, now for our regularly scheduled programming. Thanks for bearing with me, chat. All right, Alikas, hello, and thank you for telling me my mic was off. Labore, hello. Yes, I covered that. Praise Chicken Drumstick. Yes, back in my day, the only bad matchup was Odd Warrior. I'm wondering if Skipper Warrior is fine. I'm wondering if you literally gain 100 armor in a turn and blow up their giants, if that's good enough. It might be. Bag, hello. You don't miss Odd Warrior.